Hello, everyone. I am Katherine Lewis from the Diversability team, and we are so excited to be hosting our very first podcast episode of Diversability Amplified. That is our newest podcast, and we are so excited to be featuring 5 community members today as part of our huge celebration for Disability Pride Month. So before we get started, I want each of you to introduce yourselves to our guests, and then we will get started. Again, I am Katherine Lewis. I am a Caucasian woman, long dark black hair, and I am sitting in front of a bookshelf and music decor. So Chris, can you introduce yourself first?
Yes, I can, and I will. Hi, my name is Chris Mitchell. I am sitting in front of a beautiful virtual background that has a big blue sky and hot air balloons because we rise over our challenges in our lives. I'm wearing a white baseball cap, white polo shirt. I am a Caucasian male, and I have hair the color of gray, which I hate admitting, but it's the truth.
Molly, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Molly Weisman. I am the editor for Imagine the World as One magazine, which is a disability lifestyle magazine. My description of myself is I'm a Caucasian woman with blonde, brownish hair who has glasses.
Thank you. Shannon, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, my name is Shannon Thompson. I'm a 33-year-old Caucasian woman living with relapsing remitting MS or multiple sclerosis. I have dark brown curly hair down to my mid-back. I'm wearing a teal green short sleeve shirt, a pearl necklace, and a pearl headband. And I'm sitting in my living room with my tan couch behind me, and the walls are painted green.
Awesome. Kim, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Kimberly. I am a 48-year-old Caucasian woman. I am sitting in my computer room in front of a couch, in front of some puppy toys and beds because we just adopted 2 puppies. So the room is kind of a mess. I have long brown hair. I'm wearing a purple shirt, and I am sitting in a wheelchair. I have achondroplasia and spinal cord injury.
And then is it Tylia or Tylia?
Tylia.
Tylia, can you introduce yourself for us?
Hi, my name's Tylia Flores. I am a 26-year-old born with spastic dysplasia, the most common form of cerebral palsy. I am an African-American / Puerto Rican, and I'm wearing a green shirt, and I'm sitting behind my Stomping on CP logo with the foot and the words in green, Stomping on CP, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves and for being our first group of guests during this immensely important month for our community. I want to kick off today's episode by asking all of you, can you tell me a little bit about the point in your journey where you became pridefully disabled, like where you embraced pride in your identity as a disabled person and what that shift was like for you?
Can I go first?
Absolutely.
I would have to say when I started stomping on CP at 18, where I just said, you know what, I'm disabled and I'm proud of it, and I'm just going to embrace who I am after hiding my disability for all these years, after trying to go online and create fake profiles. I finally said, you know what, enough's enough. And I have to thank me finding my passion for writing for that breakthrough. And that was at 16. So 2 years transitioning to finally accepting my disability. And it's been awesome to say I'm disabled and proud.
Thank you so much for that perspective. It doesn't often happen for many of us in our community that early in life. So that's really awesome to hear. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about that experience for you?
Sure. I have to say that I accepted my uniqueness, if you will, that's like what I like to call it, right in my 20s, my late 20s, when I finally fully accepted myself. Because obviously, in your 20s, you're a woman, you take, pride in your appearance. You want to do all the latest fashions and fads and do what everybody else is doing, what your friends are doing. And it just got to the point where I said, I am who I am. I'm unique. That's what, makes me me, if you will. Why am I shameful? Why am I hiding? Because I would do that a lot. I would not go out as much with friends, family, especially dealing with both achondroplasia, short stature, and a spinal cord injury when I'm in a wheelchair. So it's basically, I felt like I got, double punched, if you will, with challenges.
Mhm.
But I said, you know what, it is what it is. And I took pride in it. And like, this is who I am, accept me or not. And, I just put myself out there. And it was a breakthrough, and it's freeing, if you will. Felt like, you're bounded for so long, but once you accept that, it's basically a new life. And it gave me more freedom, if you will. And it is very freeing. So it's about my late 20s.
Okay, that's really interesting. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about that experience for you?
Well, to begin with, I was born with some birth defects, including being legally blind. So I've been visually impaired all my life. And then in my mid-30s, I had an ischemic stroke to my spinal cord, which put me in a wheelchair. Now, I can't say a particular date, because to me, developing pride in who you are with your disability is a lifelong journey. It started when I was a little kid, and each day as I talk more about my disabilities with people, share more about who I am, and just go and do the things that everyone else does, but finding a unique way for me to do it with my physical limitations, each day gives me the courage and the energy to be prideful, and it grows each day. So it's not really a starting point nor an ending point. It's a continual journey through life for me.
I love that perspective of it being kind of a fluid process. Shannon, what was it like for you? Was there like a shift, or was it very much more gradual like Chris?
I would say both. And I will give you the reason why I say both. So a little of my backstory. When I was 10 years old, I had optic neuritis in both of my eyes and went blind for about a week. And then I was put on prednisone steroids for 2 years. And every time they would try to taper me off the medicine, I would start losing vision again. Finally, we were able to get my vision to a place where it stabilized, and I did regain most of my vision. At the time, doctors said it was unlikely that I would ever turn into MS. So I just lived my life as if, nothing to worry about. However, when I was a freshman in college, I was pursuing an acting major, and I had a couple months where I was having a hard time walking, and I would collapse on the floor frequently. Unfortunately, I was able to get an MRI, which showed that I have multiple sclerosis and several lesions on my brain. So I would say it was devastating, because I have mobility that fluctuates so much, where there's days that I can walk okay, there's days I need a cane, there's days I need a wheelchair scooter, and then there's days I can't get out of bed. So it was a shift to come up with a new definition of normal for myself, because I would find myself in trouble so much when I was trying to live life as I used to be able to, and that wasn't fair to my body. And during that time, I would get very frustrated with my body, like, oh, why can't you do this anymore? But with my journey with doing yoga and meditation, and I am a registered yoga teacher and children's yoga teacher, I've really learned about acceptance and love and kindness for my body. So I would say it was an immense shift at first, and really it's a lifelong process. Like Chris was saying, I think I'm always going to keep learning how to be prideful and what works for my body.
Thank you for that perspective. Molly, what about you?
Oh, I did not say this in the open, but I'll say now, I am so palsy. And so for me, I have cerebral palsy, and additionally I have depression, which is an interesting combination, because I think I've always had depression, but I didn't get on antidepressants until I was like 25. So prior to that, there was a lot of self-loathing, a tremendous amount of internalized ableism as well. And so after I got on antidepressants, I was able to realize that having a disability was not accounted for, and also that society and inaccessibility of society is actually more quote unquote disabling than a condition itself. The lack of access is more disabling than whatever condition you're living with. You know, the inability to get in the building without a ramp, I'm not a wheelchair user, but a user list is more disabling than just whatever condition you have.
That's such an important point to make, that the environment that we're in is often more disabling than our own bodies are. And I really want to circle back to that with you, Molly, when we do some individual questions, because that's a really, really important point about the process of becoming prideful in our own disabilities. I want to move on to the next question that I have for all of you. And we, as all of you have shown in your own stories so far, we all experience disability differently. There are invisible disabilities and physical disabilities and all different kinds of mental health condition disabilities, and this vast spectrum of the experience in our community. And our own perspective is impacted in so many ways. And I'm curious to hear from you, what are some of the factors that have affected your journey most? And how do you think those factors impacted the development of your pride in your disability identity? Let's start in the middle. We kind of did a circle, so let's start in the middle. Shannon, can you talk about that a little bit for yourself?
Hi, yes. Okay. So I have a couple things I want to say in regards to that. So I think listening to my body and learning what it needs on a daily basis is really huge for me. I do have other symptoms as well as my mobility fluctuating, but I try to plan ahead. I bring a travel kit with me everywhere that has a folding cane. It has cooling neck bands in the summer, leg warmers in the winter. I have an issue with body temperature regulation. So it just has all those things that help make life easier for me when I'm on the go. And if it's been a busy day, I'll take an Epsom salt bath. That helps with the chronic leg pain that I have. So just things like that. I journal, I write down, oh, I wasn't feeling good today. And then I try to connect the dots, see why am I not feeling too good? Was it really busy? Maybe I ate something that I shouldn't have. I'm gluten intolerant, so I should not eat gluten. And then I would also say that being open with people about my disability and spreading awareness is extremely important for me. After I had the optic neuritis, whenever my mom would bring it up when I was growing up as an adolescent, I was mortified. I did not want to hear about it. I didn't want to talk about it. But after I was diagnosed with MS when I was 18, some of my friends weren't really sure how to be there for me to give me support. So I had to do some internal work and try to figure out how can I best communicate what I need or what I'm going through with friends. So I'm very, very open about my disability with people.
And am I hearing that kind of learning that openness is what really helped you to develop that pride?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. There's nothing to be shameful about with having a disability.
And for you, how did that impact how you go about daily life in that process? How did those factors impact that for you?
Yeah, so when I'm going to work, I try to let my boss or coworkers know if it's a rough day for me. And if I was supposed to be doing a lot of standing, say, is there any way that we could make this easier for me? I think I might need my cane later today, or in a wheelchair today. So just, yeah, really just communicating what I need from coworkers so that they know how to be there for me. Because there have been times I've not done that and I've collapsed. And of course they were horrified, like, why didn't you say anything? Well, I didn't want to be a bother. So it's better, it's safer for me, it's better for them if there's just open communication.
I love that. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about what are some of the factors that have affected your journey of becoming prideful in your disability identity?
Sure. Being with born with achondroplasia, I had to deal with challenges right from the start. Obviously, dealing with and everybody can probably relate to this. Like, why am I different from other people? Why do I look different? Why are people staring at me? I got that a lot as a child, and my parents, thankfully, did not hide me or did not shield me from that. They said, no, go out there, be outgoing. You have no reason to be shameful. You're you. And that I think not being ashamed of myself or what my quote unquote appearance, helped a lot. And I, again, I thank my parents for that, how they raised me. But and as years gone by, and unfortunately, my spinal cord injury happened when I was 19 years old. So not only was I dealing with the achondroplasia, then I had surgery to deal with a spinal cord issue I was having. They went in to correct something. Unfortunately, it went in the opposite direction, and I lost mobility, like about 50% mobility. So then at 19 years old, I'm having to deal with that, all of a sudden. So trying to, deal with that along with everything else, being 19, hopefully going off to college. My main thing was I just got to take it day by day. That's the main thing, right? Is taking it day by day. And just listening to my body, and just, I have the same thing. I have temperature issues with my body. I get cold, I get hot from the injury. Just being prepared. It seems like everything changes as I get older. I'm getting older now, so I'm dealing with other stuff. I'm dealing with some arthritis, because I'm 48 years old. So arthritis is starting to come in. And so now I'm dealing with that. So it is going to be a lifelong thing. And so I just have to take it day by day and take the challenges as they come to me, and just be, it's like, it is what it is, and everybody's going to deal with something. You're not the only one. Everybody has their own challenges. You're not alone in this. Nobody's, quote unquote, perfect. So yeah, it's just being okay with who you are, taking on the challenges as they come to you, not being embarrassed, not being like, if you don't meet that challenge, if you don't accomplish your goals in a certain time, not to be, embarrassed or shameful, just keep at it, don't give up, and that's the main thing, is don't give up. So
I'm also curious, how do you think the development of your comfort with your disabilities would have changed if it weren't for the encouragement and support of your parents so early on?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
No problem. If you had not had the support and encouragement of your parents so early on, how do you think that would have impacted the way you've become so prideful in your own identity now?
That's a good question. I think I would have, eventually, accepted and taken pride. I think because with my parents, basically, it's just hard to explain, because they didn't want to, they weren't ashamed, if you will. And I know a lot of families may deal with that. They want to shield their children who's going through some challenges, not because they're embarrassed, just because they don't want their child to be hurt, or they don't want them to be teased by friends or anybody. But my parents are like, no, just I mean, don't get me wrong. There was times when kids or adults did make comments, and my parents were right there, and they would sometimes couldn't hold back, and they would say something to them. And it's also like a teaching moment for those people. And I say, oh, this is, unfortunately, this is, they would talk to them, say, this is not very nice of you to say, this is my daughter, you need to go about it. If you want to talk to her, if you want to ask her questions, by all means, but don't just stare or make comments and so forth. And I'm take pride in that. If anybody has any questions or comments about why am I in a chair, why am I short, I welcome them. And because that's a teaching moment too. especially with, young kids.
Yeah,
I mean, I know they don't know, so I can't fault them, but it's a teaching moment. And hopefully as they get older and they come across people who may be different from them, it's accepting, and it is normal to see people that are not like you, and everybody's unique in their own way. Nobody's a
I love
carbon
that.
copy. Mhm.
I love that. I love that. Molly, can you tell us a little bit about some of the factors that have impacted your journey?
Yeah, so one of the, first of all, I have to say having a parent who was always very supportive has made the journey much easier. But one of the other major factors that has influenced my journey is being part of a theater group in the Chicago area called Contest Theater. It does theater programming for children and adults with and without disabilities. And I've been involved with that for 20 years now, so since I was 14. And because I was always involved with that, and because I was always surrounded by kids and adults, both with and without disabilities, in what was a very equal playing field and a very creative community, gave me a sense of allyship and a huge sense of self-acceptance in myself. To see other people who were going through similar things to me, and that really helped me form a major part of my identity as a person with a disability.
That's really interesting that the arts have had such an impact on your acceptance of your identity. That's really unique. I like that. Tylia, can you tell us some of the factors that have helped you develop pride in your identity?
Well, what helps me develop pride in my identity is doing things like this, advocacy and speaking out for those who have cerebral palsy that necessarily can't, and making an impact within the disability community to tell those people there's nothing wrong with you having, in my case, cerebral palsy. And what's been the most difficult part for me to accept at some points is that I'm always going to have chronic pain, and I'm always going to be like this forever. Like just today before this recording, I just came back from the doctors and they told me that I need another operation immediately. So all this is just a process, but I would say my go-to survival guide in this process is having people that support me, and also figuring out ways that I could advocate for those who can't, and also understanding that the world's always gonna need me to speak out for those who cannot speak for themselves, and also writing as well.
You have so many avenues for those outlets, and I think that's really important. Thank you for sharing that. Again, I'm going to circle back to those outlets in my individual questions, because I'm really interested in the ways that you guys have found those avenues for action. But I want to ask Chris, before we move on, what are some of the factors that have impacted your acceptance journey and your disability pride journey the most?
I had my ischemic stroke to my spinal cord about 2 months after I got engaged to my fiance. And I woke up after surgery, unable to turn myself from my bed, feed myself, unable to stand, walk, any of that. Now, a situation like that, unfortunately, has ended relationships. But my fiance saw beyond that and saw me as still a loving, caring, compassionate person, and stood by me 24 hours a day in the hospital the first 2 weeks, and was by my side every minute of my rehabilitation journey, encouraging me and supporting me. And her seeing me as a still as a human being, as a person, an individual, did have a major impact. When I was released from the rehabilitation hospital, I ran into some people who had not known I had my ischemic stroke to my spinal cord. They saw me in the wheelchair for the first time. Their looks on their face, they were shocked. It looked like their jaw was going to hit the floor, and that hurt. And that night, after seeing those kind of reactions, I sat next to my wheelchair and I pointed at it and I said, "It doesn't define who I am." And that moment, I decided I'm going to do everything I can. So when people describe me to someone else, they're going to say he does A, B, C, D, E, and oh, by the way, he's in a wheelchair and he's disabled, if they even mention that at all. And I know that may sound like I'm hiding my disability, but yet I was actually going out there to show the world there's more to me than a disability, and there's more to people who are disabled than just a disability. They are actual productive human beings.
I love that. I love that. It sounds like having someone that was supportive of you was a huge thing for you. And that's such an important topic. I want to move on to some individual questions because all of your stories are so fascinating and your journeys are so interesting. And I want to get a little bit more from each of you in depth on these journeys that you've been on. I'd like to start with Shannon. So I know that you have, been a teacher in the past, and you've spent a lot of time in the yoga space and the meditation space. Can you talk a little bit about how both teaching and yoga and meditation and all of those activities have changed the way you see disability, particularly your disability?
Yes, absolutely. Let me just think for a sec. So for yoga and meditation, that doing it every day has really affected my physical health positively, as well as my mental health. When I graduated from my 200-hour yoga program, I was going through a really rough time where 2 months I was in a wheelchair every day. And my teacher was so wonderful working with me to make up work that I had missed. And I actually taught my final class in a wheelchair, and just hearing people's reactions about how great it was to see that, it made me want to, I guess, be prideful in my disability. I feel that there were times maybe in the past I'd be like, oh, it's a bad day, I don't want to go anywhere. And maybe some of it was that I was ashamed that I had to use a wheelchair or a cane, just trying to develop that mindset. But nope, this is me, and nothing should get in the way of stopping me from doing what I love. So when I do teach classes at the library where I work part-time, I've taught classes standing up with a cane or in a wheelchair. And it's so great when the kids ask me questions, because of course they're curious, they just want to know. And sometimes they'll say, oh, well, I saw you last week and you were walking okay. What's wrong today? And so I just tell them I have a chronic illness, and some days I have a hard time walking. And they're just so accepting and wonderful of it, which is so amazing to see. And there's been times that other kids have felt that they could share about their own disability with me or with the class. And sometimes they'll let the kids ask them questions, and they will talk about having type 1 diabetes or whatever it is that they're dealing with. And it's amazing seeing the kids who will stay after class on those days to help me clean up. And they do that of their own initiative. And I always follow up with their parents to tell them what amazing children they're raising.
So do you think that, in a way, that's your form of activism? Is those daily activities, that those teachable moments that Kim was talking about earlier? Do you see it that way, or do you kind of see it in a different light?
Yes, I would say so. I have had the chance in the past to be an MS activist in Connecticut, and I would go to the state capitol and speak with my district representatives about why certain legislature should pass. And I have also had the chance to speak at my former high school and college about my disabilities. But I think that really every day, and especially with children, having them have that sense of awareness from a young age, it's just going to make them more supportive and accepting as they grow. And I feel very honored to have the opportunity to share that with them.
That's huge. That's huge. I want to segue from that question and that comment about self-advocacy through awareness and those teachable moments to Kim, who talked a lot about those teachable moments yourself. And can you tell us a little bit about how you think those teachable moments help you to develop even more pride in your disability, or do you think that it does in any way?
Oh, absolutely. Like I was saying, we have the opportunity to show kids, children at a young age, that there are people who are going to be different from them, who are different from them. Does not mean that they're scary, or that they should be scared or afraid to approach them, to talk with them, or to be friends with them. Especially because when they go to school, they're going to come across people or other kids that are different from them, and they may be afraid, they may be a little hesitant. But to have those teachable moments and to show them that it's okay, ask questions, ask your parents, but be a friend, to a fellow classmate, because they may not have friends. We don't know their situation. And show that everybody is, should be accepting of one another. With my situation, I went to an all-girls school from a young age to high school. And when I got to the age, going to high school, my parents gave me the choice, said, okay, do you want to continue your private school at all-girls Catholic school, or do you want to go to public school? Now, going to public school was major, it's huge, it was, co-ed public school. And I was a little hesitant because I was comfortable where I was before. I had the friends there, but I wanted to experience that. I experienced one, area, if you will, of schooling, but I wanted to experience the public school. I wanted to get out there and, put myself out there, be friends with, both boys and girls. And, I know it's gonna be other situations that I'm gonna come across and, that I haven't experienced before. So in a way, I was maybe teaching my fellow classmates, some lessons, not just young kids, because maybe some of them haven't, been around others with disabilities. Fortunately, my school was, very public and we had kids of, disabled, non-disabled, so it was already set up for access for us in a way. But I just think if you teach kids and show kids at a young age that, about acceptance in all forms of life, no matter if you're disabled, non-disabled, whatever, it may be, it's okay. And it's the norm, if you will. And just because you may look different, be different, it does not mean they're, mean or, they're different from you. And that way, when they do grow up, they'll be more accepting of others when it comes to going out in the real world, workplace, whatever have you. And in turn, it also taught me more too. By teaching others, I developed more confidence too, as well, which, in a way was unexpected, if you will. I wasn't expecting that, but I accepted it, and I'm proud of it. I'm happy for that. Even today, nowadays today, I'm still, feel like I do got, out there, I do still see people with a glance, corner of their eye. I'll catch it every once in a while, but it's not like, I'm not hiding behind anything, like, yeah, this is me, and I'll smile back at them and, and wave to them, and, they'll smile back and whatnot. So, it's going to be, a lifelong thing, but again, but I feel like the younger you teach kids, the better, they'll be accepting, and hopefully they can teach their classmates and fellow friends that everybody is alike in a certain way.
And I think those teachable moments are so important to helping all of us get out there more, because
Exactly.
it puts us out of our shells as well. And I think you know, hearing that it's important for both of you so much, just reiterates that fact. I want to ask Chris and Tylia, you both are writers, and I'm curious, how do you convey pride through your work as writers? And how do you use your writing to empower your readers to embrace pride in their own lives?
Can I go first, Chris, if you don't mind?
Oh, ladies first, please.
Well, for one thing, when it comes to teaching people about pride through my writing, I talk about my real life experiences and I'm raw about it. Like, I'm very transparent about it. So let's say, for example, I come from a doctor's appointment and I'm fired up and I'm upset. I write about it and I post about it because I want people to get the truth. I don't want people to get this fantasy, you know? And that's how I show people pride through my writing. And it's also a teachable moment for parents and loved ones that don't know what their child is going through at the time, or their young adult. In my case, I get a lot of emails from parents saying, "Thank you. You just spoke for my child." One of the emails that I got that really shocked me was when a 20-year-old said, "You just spoke for my 70-year-old grandfather." So I was really happy about that.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Chris?
Yes, mine's very similar to Tylia's answer. I'm very authentic, and whether it be my writing, when I do public speaking, or doing a podcast, hosting or guesting on one, I share my real life experiences and I mix in some humor, because if people hear my story and laugh a little bit and say, "Hey, it's okay if we make these mistakes. It's okay if I struggle with this. I can overcome it. I can do this." And you're going to get through life better if you have a little sense of humor. I like to tell people, just, enjoy it. Enjoy your disability. It will pass, or you will, one of the two. But while you have it, have fun with it.
I agree with you, Chris. I always say CP's having a party versus I'm in pain, so that people can laugh.
And I'm curious for both of you, does your writing, do you take it from the perspective of Shannon and Kim of trying to educate others, or do you typically take your writing from the perspective of your own journey and your own process, and how others take it is up to them? Do
A
you
little
do
for
you
me.
do it with a goal in mind, or is it more about your process than their experience?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I got excited when you asked that question. But for me, I think it's giving them a teaching tool, what they could learn from it. Because the more we spread awareness about our disabilities through our writing, the better. And the more and more we do that, the less and less the misconceptions become a true reality.
Chris, do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I do. I'm very similar. When I write, I guess there's several missions involved. I want to share my stories and my life journeys, because it helps me deal with what I've been through. And I'm also hoping in my writing, my speaking, my podcasting, that people can say, "I can relate to that," and it will make them feel it's okay. I'm not alone in this battle, and I can win this just like he has. So my mission, or my purpose in writing, is to share my stories in hopes that it makes a difference in somebody's life, or at least makes them smile.
That's so important. That awareness is I think integral and so tied to our own pride process. So I'm really glad to hear you guys kind of reiterate that together. I want to ask Molly. Molly, you work in the creative space, particularly in magazine layouts, which is a really unique profession, I might add. And I'm curious, how has the acceptance and pride in your disability influenced your creative process? And does it impact the way you do your creative work?
I mean, yeah, of course it does, because it's the lens through which I see everything, so it can't not impact my creative work. The magazine is, yeah, I love doing layoffs. It sounds so dorky, but I love doing layoffs for the magazine. And I think it's, when you're presenting stories of people with disabilities in the magazine, you have to consider the way it looks. You want the layout to be beautiful, and you want it to be inviting, and it's so visual. It's, you want people to be drawn in, and not just because the layout is pretty. You want people to be drawn in because you want people to read these stories and see the experiences in the magazine of people living with disabilities. And so I think that's how, truly I'm being able to be creative, and how, because these stories excite me, right? It's exciting for me to read these stories. And so that comes with the pride of being in the space of working for a publication that revolves around disability issues.
Yeah, and telling those stories is that empowering to you, or do you find one impacts the other, or they both impact each other? Like, has your pride journey impacted the way you tell those stories, or do those stories also impact your own pride journey and vice versa?
I think it's more my own disability pride impacts the way I tell a story. I feel like, it's because of the stories are exciting to me, because of my own disability pride. I want them to be exciting to other people, and I want them to be exciting to people both with and without disabilities. I hope that I'm inviting people into a world with things in it that the world people can embrace.
I love that. Through that creative process, you're helping others to embrace their own pride. I love that. So I have one more question for all of you, and it's about ableism. And it's always such a pervasive topic in our community. And I do want to touch on it because I think it's also so impactful and important to the pride journey and how all of us develop our pride in our own disabilities. And I would like to know how you think disability pride uniquely battles ableism, and what unique power it has in our community's fight against ableism.
I would like to go first.
Okay.
I think the unique side of like battling ableism within our disability community is that we all have different ways we identify, because before disability pride was such a thing, people always wanted to use something else to identify with your disability, and now we're saying it's okay. So for me, it's been a learning experience on what to say and what not to say. And I think the unique part of Disability Pride Month when it comes to ableism is that we're educating people on what dialect to use when it comes to disability, because maybe you come across somebody who said an ableist thing and they may not know. So that's where I feel the unique aspect of it is, because we're always educating.
And I think that process never ends. As I've, learned from all of you today, that process is ever going. We're always educating and also at the same time growing in our own pride. What other thoughts do you guys have about the unique opportunity for disability pride to fight ableism? Kim, do you have thoughts?
Um,
I know it's a tough question.
yeah, it is, because like you said, it's, you know, it can definitely stir up some opinions about it, but we may have to come back to me for that one. Do you mind coming back to me for that one? Because
That is totally fine. Chris,
and
Shannon, Molly?
yeah.
Molly, would you like to share your opinion on that?
Yeah, I feel like the way we see ourselves as people with disabilities, we hope impacts the way others see us. If we take pride in our identities, and if we're open out, so to speak, about taking pride in our identities, we hope that that will get other people to respect what our identities are, I guess. You know, if you're not ashamed of it and you're saying to people, this is how I live my life and this is something to be ashamed of, do you feel like you hope they then would be ashamed of you as well, I guess?
I think that is a perfect way to sum up that statement, that if we take pride in ourselves, it's going to help others accept us as well. I think that's a really powerful way to put that process of how disability pride can impact ableism. Are there any other final thoughts from any of you on that question before we close today's first podcast episode? I'm going to take that as a resounding no. I always save the most loaded question for last. Maybe I should have not done that. I want again to thank all of you, Kim, Chris, Shannon, Tylia, and Molly from our community and Diversability for joining me today for our very first podcast episode of Diversability Amplified. We will be posting a recording of this for all of those who need to see this visually, and we will also be posting this on a podcast platform and sharing it with all of you, because we are so excited to be celebrating disability pride in this unique way. And we look forward to sharing more stories on this podcast in the future.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. You guys are awesome.